Welcome, everyone, to another episode of my audio journal podcast, Missing Pieces, Greg's World podcast, whatever we're calling this. Welcome to it. I do have to start this episode off with an apology to anyone that watched last week's episode. I made a mistake in uploading that episode by not unchecking mid-roll ads that YouTube automatically puts on these videos. And as a result, if you did watch this on YouTube, you may have seen up to 19 ad breaks in my 50-minute episode from last week, which is infuriating to me because I actually shared this on Greg's World thinking like, oh, people would like to come over and maybe see what's going on behind the scenes. And what they're met with is a wall of just ad after ad. It was about every 3 minutes there was an ad break. And I was like mortified when I saw that. It was like a day or two later. So I ended up unchecking that box, which I typically do. You never see ads in these videos. In fact, there's one ad that plays before it, and that's literally it. I hate the interruptions. In fact, I have YouTube Premium, so I don't even see YouTube ads anymore, but YouTube has gotten very comfortable with these ad breaks that happen in the middle of videos, and it just takes you out of this. If I'm trying to sit here and have a conversation with you, I don't want an ad to just jump in right now for Allstate or something like that. No thanks. And I should tell you, I was curious, like, okay, how much money did those 19 ad breaks make? So 912 people actually watched last week's episode. I don't know how long they watched for. For all I know, they all could have watched for like 2 minutes and then all left. But I imagine there's some people that watched the whole thing. So how much money did I make subjecting 912 people to 19 ads? I made $8.12. So now you can see why I really don't bother with the ads. It's not a lot of money for a lot of sacrifice from a lot of people's time and enjoyment. So it's like, I'm out. So I'm going to make sure I try to do that going forward. I think maybe there's a way that I can automatically make it so they don't show up. But it's just like every week I'm like, no. And then the week I forget, I'm like, Sugar Shack. And it ruins everyone's experience. I actually got a message on Instagram from Jenny. Thank you for letting me know. It was like right after I found out, I got on Instagram randomly. I'm like, she's like, hey, there's like tons of ads on your podcast. I was like, oh, it wasn't me. And that's like the worst part of it. Is that I think people, when they see all these ads, particularly something like that, they think that the creator is like super greedy or something like that. Like, man, this guy must really need money. In fact, I think I've done a live stream before where the ads were accidentally left on like that. And someone was like, man, you must need some money, Greg. And I was like, no, it wasn't me. You can put ads in your video, and I'm okay with people doing that. I'm not judging. I do it on some of my longer videos, but it's nice if you do it like maybe like once or twice in like a 15-minute video, not 5 to 10 times in a 15-minute video. That's excessive. So I say all that to say, sorry for last week's episode if you had to endure all those. It was not my intention in this episode. I'm going to say with like 99% certainty, we'll not have ads plastered all throughout it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about my number one, I want to say passion right now, but I'm going to say obsession to replace that with, because as you all probably know, I have a very addictive personality, and when I set my mind on something, particularly some type of goal, there's literally nothing that'll stop me from getting that. And right now that happens to be weight loss, fitness, trying to get in shape for our upcoming trip to Hawaii. I had a big goal that I was trying to hit to lose some weight for our trip, because if you're going to go to Hawaii and you're going to be in a swimsuit and all this stuff, you want to be in your best shape, right? So I set a pretty big goal for myself to lose weight going into the trip. And that started on Clark Mann's birthday. We had a big pizza party, had cake, ice cream, the whole works. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with this. And I have been done ever since. It's been 18 days now. Just this week alone, to give you an update, because I'm holding myself accountable, which is why I'm preloading each of the episodes in the beginning with this, because I have to tell you how good or bad I did. And if I do bad, that's going to make me feel bad, because I want to do good. And this week I was down 3 pounds, which is just under my goal. I'm trying to lose a half pound a day. I know, super aggressive. But the good news is, since January 2nd, which as of today's the 20th, I'm recording this on Friday, in 18 days I've lost 9.4 pounds. So I'm like right there. And that feels pretty darn good. In fact, I'm at the point now where I am leaner and I weigh less now than any point in 2022. And I made that happen in 18 days just by making it my 100% focus. Like, this is what I'm doing. So you may ask, what have you been doing, Greg? I'm curious. And I won't say this is going to work for everyone. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend it, because really what this came down to for me is sacrifice. What I've done in 2022 and even years before that is enjoying the luxuries of food and eating, right? I eat snacks. I would have sodas. You've probably seen it. We go out for dinner at places, especially on vacation. I get a meal. We get dessert. I get soda. All of that stuff. it wasn't a focus for me. And what I would do to, I guess, tolerate my actions is I would just not get on the scale. And you can see it, like I have this app called Happy Scale, which I check in with every day. And you can see times where like my weight's going down and like it's like daily, right? And then you'll see like weeks go by with me not checking in. And then all of a sudden I'm up 5 pounds. And it's like, well, it's because no news is good news, right? And I didn't want to see the bad news on the scale. So I guess my number one recommendation, if you're, it's still January, maybe we're all still in this boat. My number one recommendation is to weigh yourself every day. It keeps you accountable. Just like making a podcast to 912 people talking about how you're doing with your weight loss journey, that holds you accountable as well. But if you get on there and today it goes up, you're like, all right, I need to make better decisions so tomorrow I don't see this again, or maybe it'll go down. So that's like something I recommend. But what I've been doing, I've really been like conscious of everything that I eat. Very careful about what I put in my body. I'm trying to maintain a calorie deficit every day, which I have been doing. And that's how I've been able to hit these, I would say, gains, losses, I guess is what they are. Like the only time in life you want to see losses is here. So my meals basically consist of, and meals is a word that I use lightly here because I have like a hard-boiled egg for brunch. I don't have breakfast or lunch. I have like brunch. So I have a hard-boiled egg or two. They're only 70 calories a piece. So you can have two of those for 140 calories. And then I have usually like a pickle or two. I found these pickles. I'm like a pickle enthusiast. I've tried like every pickle brand that I could possibly find. Anytime we go to the store and I see a new pickle, I try it. I found these ones that I really love that are like spicy pickles. And they're only 5 calories. They've got clean ingredients. There is a little bit of sodium. There's about 9% of your daily sodium in one pickle. But I'll have like a pickle or two. So I'm at like 150 calories, worst case scenario, if I have 2 eggs and 2 pickles. Not bad at all, especially considering that I've been doing at least 30 minutes of cardio each day. And in my experience, that burns, at least on the elliptical, that burns about 300 active calories. So I'm at negative 150 just after exercising, so that's the whole idea, is like you're trying to have more calories go out than are going in. So if I take 150 in, I take 300 out, I'm at negative 150. And then that's not even accounting for all just the natural calories your body's burning just by being alive. So then for dinner, I have a regular meal. Cody makes a fairly healthy meal each night. We've been doing a lot more seafood and just trying to really focus on not taking in too many carbs. So I have that, and then I do no nighttime snacking. We haven't eaten out at all this month, which I guess has saved money, although that's kind of offset with the seafood we're getting. Like we've been getting swordfish, which is my new favorite thing. We got shrimp, we've gotten tuna there, we've gotten crab cakes that they make. So it's a little expensive going to the seafood place, but it's also pretty healthy too. Maybe with the exception of the crab cakes, but they're so delicious. It's probably where I've cheated. So no snacking, no calories through drinks. I don't take any calories in through sodas anymore. I'm done with that. And then I mentioned the cardio. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. Again, I don't know if I'd recommend this because I am kind of suffering. Like this is a sacrifice, as I mentioned. It was lots of times where I indulged and enjoyed. Now is a time of sacrifice. I feel hungry oftentimes. I really am like dialing this in to really cut those calories. And it may not be super healthy to be losing a half pound a day. That's about 1,750 calories that I'm out of. And the average adult male, I think, should be taking in about 2,500 calories. So you can kind of figure that out with how many calories I'm not taking in versus how many calories I'm burning through exercise. I'm pretty low each day. But this isn't forever. This is just to get me down to where I want to get to. And then I feel like I can kind of just go back to somewhat normal. I don't think I'm going to go back to as crazy as I was, because I see now, and any person that exercises knows this, when you look at a food and you see the calories in it, and then you think about the amount of work you have to do to burn that off. Like look at an Oreo, for example, at like 50 calories. You look at that Oreo and then you do the math on it and you're like, dang, that's like 8 minutes on the elliptical. Do I want to do 8 minutes on the elliptical to eat that one Oreo? And maybe the decision's yes, and there's no harm in that. In fact, last night, I felt like I went a little too hard at dinner time. So I went up and did a second session on the elliptical for another 300 calories that I took off. Plus I knew like today, Friday is my my official weigh-in day is what I'm considering it, because it's the day I do the podcast. It's also the last day I'll be weighing in before our trip, because we're leaving on a Saturday. So Fridays are always my day, and I was like, I'm going to try to get this extra 300 off. So you can see the obsession level that's happening there. Like, it's pretty much all I think about. I know exactly to the 0.10 pound what I weigh at any given moment. And I weigh myself like twice a day. I weigh myself in the morning, I weigh myself at night. And it's been like fun to see that number going down and seeing like my high number be lower than my low number before. But what I was saying about like kind of going back to normal is that as I look back through my history of weights over like the last 2 years, I've been doing like tracking it for a while. I love tracking stuff. I'm a bit of a nerd like that. I haven't really moved that much. Like, it's been like maybe like 5 to 10 pounds one way or another that I've moved the entire time that I've been tracking it. I think I started doing this like right after lockdowns happened, when we were all home in March of 20 and just eating and not exercising or doing anything. And haven't moved that much. So my idea was to get down to my ideal weight and then just kind of go back to eating like the fun stuff. Like right now I am craving a pizza more than you could imagine. It's my favorite food, and I could just eat an entire pizza right now. Will I go back to eating an entire pizza? Probably not. But I can have some pizza. And if I see the scale go up the next day, it's like, okay, we got to do something about this, right? You just got to make sure you're always checking it. But what I've essentially done just in this first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of this year has undone everything that I've done in like the last year or two. Like, I am at a lower weight right now than I was at any point in 2022. And that's a great feeling, knowing that I literally did that in just over 2 weeks. And it was just through sacrifice. You know, it's pretty much like anything in life I've found is like, if you really want something, all you have to do is put your mind to it and work towards it, make the right decisions to get you there, and you will get there. You know, like, there's nothing stopping me from getting to my ideal weight. Will it all happen before our trip? It's going to be a push. I'm really going to have to work for it. Like, I needed to be probably about 0.7 pounds lower than I am right now to get there, but it's 0.7 pounds. I could go do the elliptical for an hour. I could do that right now. And it would be a good push to get to my, like, I guess, checkpoint or whatever you want to call it. But I'm having a lot of fun working towards this. Like, this to me it's like a game for me. And seeing the scale is like seeing your high score, only your score's getting lower. It's like playing golf. You want the lowest score possible. And I've been just enjoying the heck out of it. So I know this is like, I did not anticipate this being such a long part of this. But I say all this because I know there's probably someone listening to this out there. Out of 912 people, there's probably somebody out there that's not their ideal weight. Maybe you're a little bit over, maybe you're a lot over. All I'm saying is that if you're willing to just start tracking and really thinking about what you're consuming, there is no doubt in my mind that you will eventually be able to get to your goal. It may not happen right away. You might lose a half a pound this month. But if you keep working towards that, there's no question about it. It's time and pressure, just like I've talked about in the past on these podcast episodes. Time and pressure will accomplish anything. And that's exactly what this is. I'm just doing a lot of pressure. But again, it's like, you know, it sucks. It sucks in the moment. But I know I've had good times in the past. I've had a lot of fun times eating chips and dip and, you know, having ice cream or snacks or whatever it is, sodas like crazy. Now's the time to sacrifice, because I have a goal in mind and I have a date in mind. And those are the two things that you really need to have. So hopefully I can motivate somebody out there to maybe work towards their thing. If you're working on it, it's still January. We're still in the new year. You didn't stop yet, did you? Don't stop your New Year's resolutions just because February hits. It's time. Now's our time. Let's do this. Let's do it. Anyways, that was my weight loss update. I do owe you a podcast, and it's going to be within this podcast. We've got 3 questions here. Somehow lost the time this week to do it. I think it was because I was live streaming yesterday. I was going to record it. Supposed to be probably recorded on Wednesday and out Wednesday, but then it's like, it just didn't happen. So I thought, hey, let's just throw it in this. You know, you guys got time. I think everybody likes longer episodes anyway, because it gives you like a little more to listen to. So let's just throw it in here. I've got 3 questions on 3 different cards. This is a series that I do at least for the next few weeks, supposedly. And then we're going to dip it into a new series that I'm excited about, where it's like a Reddit Ask Questions series. But this says, what is a fun experience that you recently had? And I thought this would be a great opportunity to inject something that I did this week, so it kind of becomes relevant to my week in my life. And that was taking Clarkman to the park to see the ducks and to play on some playground equipment. And what I really loved about this was it really felt like the old days. You guys remember last week when I was talking about the last time, and some people commented on that this week too, which I thought was nice, and how much they appreciate the last time or have started to consider that. But it's like, when's the last time you're going to take your son to the park and he's going to play on their playground equipment? There will be a time that it's the last time. Yeah, I take him when he's 14 years old. He may not be going down the twisty slide, right? He might not be sitting on that little animal that rocks back and forth. So I don't think this is going to be the last time, but I thought about that while I was there, and I wanted to appreciate the moment like it was the last time. So he had a great time on that. And then we went over to the pond that happened to be a little iced over. And my favorite part of it, and this is what made it a fun experience for me, was Clark's interest in the ice. It was like the most fascinating thing for him because it was just ever so thin, and he could push it and the water would come up. And then of course, as an 8-year-old, you're going to go grab as many stones and sticks and things as you can and throw it at it. And he just had so much fun with it. I was pretty sure that he was going to go completely underwater at some point, but luckily it was just his glove got wet, and that was the end of it. But that was an experience that I really enjoyed, and I really did think of it like this. What if this is the last time? So I just absorbed it, and I got video of it too, so I have that. But it's the last time. You got to think about it. Think about things like that. Well, I feel like I'm offering you guys too much advice here. You don't have to take my advice. I'm just following my own advice. You guys can follow along if you want to. Next one that we have here, which is the blue card, a little bit deeper. This says, what is one moment in time you'll never forget? This is such a hard one for me. I looked at this and I was like dreading it. I was like, oh God, there's so many memories and things that I have. I thought maybe I would do one, since I talk a lot about work and business and things. I thought maybe I would bring it into that realm. And I was thinking about the first day that I worked at my job that I got hired at after college, which is the job in finance that I had. And I remember that day I went out for lunch at a local like steakhouse type place. And I remember thinking, as I got out of my car and I was walking towards the building, I remember thinking like, wow, I'm a professional now. I'm a professional. Like, I'm going to go in here and pay for this lunch with I hadn't gotten my first paycheck yet, with money that I earned that day. And I worked all this time in my life, like from being a student to being a college graduate to getting hired at that job and then starting there that day. All of that work eventually led up to this moment. And now I'm a professional, and like I've made it in life. But a similar story though, that's I think even a better memory for me, because now looking back on that memory, it's like, oh God, Greg, if you only know what's in front of you here. This isn't the pinnacle of life, my friend. The other story that I like just as much, or actually more, is I remember the first day, or one of the first days, that I had a YouTube video that kind of blew up on Greg's World. And it just so happened to be a day that I had worked in the morning at my job, and it was like a Saturday. And then I went down to the mall afterwards to pick up, I think I bought a Lego set and I got a hat. I remember exactly what I bought. I bought an Under Armour hat that had like the Under Armour logo with like an American flag type thing in it. That was pretty cool at the time. And then I bought the Spider-Man bridge set. And I remember when I bought that stuff that day, as YouTube was kind of popping off for me for the first time ever. Like prior to that, I was making a few dollars here and there every day. But this was like the first time I had a video pop off. And I remember thinking that, similar just to that other story that I just told, I'm going to make more money today than I'm going to spend here at the mall. This is wild. Like, it was crazy to think like YouTube was buying this thing for me. Now, like, I live my life that way. Like, YouTube pays my bills. But like, that was the first moment where I was really kind of taken back. I was still working my job, of course, but I was like, wow, this is crazy that I'm making enough money from YouTube to actually buy something that I want. Prior to that, I mean, I think I was making like maybe $100 a month from YouTube for like the longest time, maybe $150 a month, which was nice. You know, it pays like maybe your internet bill or whatever. I looked at it like, oh, this is a windfall. But when it was like $100 that day or something like that, or maybe more, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Such an opportunity. And then I just kept going from there. But those are two like financial memories that I have of, I guess, something that I'll never forget. But man, I could do a whole podcast episode about things that you'll never forget. I mean, I'm sure there's things like, when I first saw this question, I was thinking of like historical moments, like where were you when 9/11 happened or stuff like that. But those are like core memories. I didn't want to cheap out on you guys and do the one where it's like, oh, I remember the moment that Clark was born, because that, you know, that's a gimme, right? Like a memorable time like that. You could do like the time you got married, where you first met your significant other. All those things, I guess, kind of fall into that. And I guess there is no good or bad. There's no like, that one doesn't count. But I wanted to give you one that I thought was kind of a fun story, and maybe a motivating one too. It was good memories. And then I guess, man, I have so many memories of being home with Clark and enjoying those years together that I hope to never forget. And if I do forget them, I've got all the videos, thankfully. Let's go on to the last question here. This is the purple one. This is like a looking within question. This says, what is difficult for you now, but was easy as a child? And I have two things for this one that kind of came to mind. I guess my number one thing would be, well, I guess a couple, maybe more than two. Making friends, definitely easier as a kid. And I think all these are going to tie into my final one here. Making friends, obviously easier. I think being creative is way easier. I think I've maybe talked about this before, where I believe that every person is born an artist and a creative. The problem is, as time goes by, you lose that, because you start thinking about how are other people going to think about you. And this is my other thing, not worrying so much about what other people think. That's a lot easier to do when you're little or just a kid. But you lose that artistic nature that's within you, because you start learning that things can be right or wrong. You know, there is no right or wrong in artistry, but when you do a math problem in first grade and you get it wrong, you are wrong, and you don't want to be wrong. You worry about what other people are going to think. You worry about being judged. All of those things take that creative nature away from us. And I see like Clark, man, being creative, and I hope he doesn't lose that, because I worry like what society is going to do for him. And, you know, I think about other people's kids too, and you see how awesome they are at making things. And it's like, man, don't lose that. Even if you never plan to turn that into like a profession, you never know where that could take you in life, even as just a hobby. But don't let other people like take that away from you. Like I feel like this happened to me with toys. I loved toys growing up as an adult. But I remember like my friend, when I was probably like 12 or 13, he had older sisters, and he was just like, he brought his Power Rangers over, and he's like, yeah, I'm getting rid of these. And I'm like, why? He's like, I'm too old for toys now. I'm like, no, you're not. And then I kind of felt the pressure too. And then I kind of got out of toys. I don't even know if I wanted to, but I started getting more into video games and stuff like that. But that was an example of like societal expectations of you. And I guess I've kind of broken away from that as an adult that collects Lego. You know, that's not a normal thing to do. But I do it. And there is some creative aspects of that, but it's much harder to be creative when you're conscious of things. Like I remember building things when I was a kid. I remember it happening when I was a kid. I would build something out of Lego without any regard for the coloring. You know, you just build something like out of red, yellow, blue bricks. And then when I got a little bit older, I was building a house, and I remember being like, well, I can't have this be all those different colors. We got to make the house white, and then it has like a red roof. And maybe that's just getting better at design, but it's also one of those things where it's like, that's a construct, you know, like that's like, why can't it be all those colors, right? Why not? I guess it's because houses aren't like that in the real world. But why do you have to build a house based in the real world? Base it on your own world. I wish I had a parent involved in my life that could have like really hammered that home with me. Like, just stay true to you. And I guess that's probably been the hardest thing to do as an adult that you could do when you're a kid, and that's staying true to yourself and not worrying about what other people think or what society expects from you, or what other people do. And I think that's, when I've read things about this, one of the biggest regrets that people have when they're older is that they didn't live authentically to them. And they have regrets on the things they didn't do as opposed to things they did do. So that's another kind of example that falls into that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these questions as well. If you feel like answering any of these, feel free. You can put it in the comments and things. I know it's hard in these episodes because you hear something that you want to comment on, and then like 20 minutes will go by and there's like 3 other things you want to comment on. It's hard to remember all of this stuff, so you have to go back. If you want to, you can. I'll share it next week. But what else is going on this week? Obviously, I didn't have time to do missing piece. I'm doing that now. I didn't have time to do the 3 questions. What was I doing instead? Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff in Lego. I've been putting out videos on there, editing those, making those. Specifically, I've been getting into the world of Lego Creator, which is one of my favorite themes for a number of reasons. One, I love the fact that the pieces are a little more simple, so your imagination can flow a little bit more. I love the fact that the builds are 3-in-1, so you get 3 different builds for your money. And I love the things that Lego's been coming out with. Specifically, this week I built a Lego rabbit, and I built a birdhouse. And I think I'm also going to build, this hasn't happened yet, but it may have by the time you're listening to this, I'm going to build a Lego tiger. Famously known as the butthole tiger. So I'm building like all these animals out of Lego that are also kind of like action figures, and I've been enjoying the heck out of that, and streaming that has been a lot of fun as well. On Greg's Arcade, I did another stream finally. This is my second stream of January. I said one of my goals was to do more video game stuff each day, but it's really hard to find that extra time to do it. But I ended up playing this game called Atari 50. And the premise of this game is it's like a history of Atari. Some of you may be too young to remember Atari. In fact, I'm a little bit too young for it. My first console was the NES, and I even got that late in its cycle. But Atari had a long history of obviously developing arcade cabinets. You probably know Pong. You probably know that game. And they've done a ton of things throughout history. And this game isn't just a game, but it's like a walk through history. It's like going to a museum where there's interviews from the people from Atari. There's like sketches. There's business cards. There's, stories and things that you are behind the scenes that you would have never known before. And it takes you through the entire history of Atari, through all the different chapters of the company's history, all the way up till to today. But on top of that, when they reveal a game to you, for example, Pong, or let's say Asteroids, for example, they'll show you the cabinet for Asteroids. They'll give you the backstory on it through like an interview. They'll show you different like brochures that came out. They'll show you anything you could want to see, basically. But then you can click a button to actually play the game. So it's like going to a very interactive museum where you can sit down and watch or learn and then have an opportunity to try the thing out that they're discussing. So it's a lot of fun. I think not a huge hit with my audience. My audience obviously a little bit younger. And we're going to talk more about audience later in this episode and listener feedback. Not a hit with them, but I had a fun time doing it, and I thought I would share it because it's like a nice thing for people to kind of follow along with. And I became the narrator of sorts on that. So that was happening on Greg's Arcade, which is my gaming channel if you'd like to come over there. I had a lot of fun just doing that for I think it was about an hour and a half that day. I kind of got cut off because Clarkman came home and it was getting to be dinner time, but I could have played that for longer probably. I didn't even get into the history of Atari computers, but there's some fun to be had, and I found some new games that I really enjoy on there as well. The next thing I'm about to talk about, watch a tech. I must warn you to never watch the thing that I watched this week, and as I take a drink, you can ponder what that was. It was on Netflix. It's called The Watcher, of all things. It was intriguing to me. It was trending on Netflix, and it's about this family that moves into this very nice home in this suburban area. They're trying to get out of New York City. They had to pull all of their money together to move into this place. And I'm going to spoil a little bit of this, but not the whole thing. But I wouldn't feel bad spoiling it because I don't want you to invest the 6 hours to watch the 7 episodes that I did, because I have nothing but regret because I want my time back. They start getting letters in the mailbox that's from the Watcher saying like he's watching their family, the house needs young blood, all this weird stuff. And they're trying to figure out how it is. And it just so happens to be that every one of their neighbors is like super sketchy. Even like the chief of police is sketchy. The guy that's doing security systems for him sketchy. Anybody could be the Watcher. And you spend the entire series trying to figure out who the Watcher is of these people. And as soon as you think that it's one person, they kind of get cleared. And you're like, oh, it has to be this person then. And then they get cleared. And it just goes around and around. And then they give you like, towards the end, they give you like a false confession, essentially, which is like, I was like angry initially. And then the ending is terrible. I won't tell you who the Watcher is or if you actually find out or not. Just know that the show is not worth your time. If you have 6 hours in your life to do something, watch something else. I wish I would have looked at the reviews or something, but I wanted to go in without any knowledge. Then after that, I went to like some Reddit posts on the Watcher and people were just dumping all over it. And I'd have to agree with them. So that was what I watched. And I wish I could like be like, guys, I just watched the greatest show of all time. This is what you need to watch. But that's not it. That ain't it, Chief. Oh my God, the sun's coming out for the first time in like a week. Maybe I was thinking about it. I always cautious of the light coming in here. I have windows directly in front of me, as you probably can tell if you're watching this, hopefully without ads. And the light changes the exposure on the camera. So I go from like being like completely like whited out to looking normal. But I like the natural light. I like that better than closing the blinds and having like a spotlight on me or whatever. You know, it is what it is. But it definitely isn't for the best when it comes to lighting, especially with it changing as time goes by. Let's talk instead about something I didn't like watching to something that I apparently really enjoy watching thanks to the TikTok YouTube algorithm. The YouTube TikTok rabbit hole that I went down this week was watching chess videos. Clark and I play chess recently or lately. We both kind of learned at the same time. We play against each other and I enjoy the heck out of it. But I was going on TikTok, as you sometimes do when you're making giant mistakes in your life. And it went into this live stream of this guy supposedly teaching chess. And I was like, oh, let me check this out. And it was hilarious because the guy was like awful. In fact, I watched him play like 5 games and he lost every one of them. But the funny thing is, like, people were just trashing him in the comments or in the chat, and he was laughing at it all. So I think he might have been trolling. But he just kept saying like, oh yeah, I totally saw that. That was a teachable moment. And every time he'd make a mistake, he would call it like a teachable moment as opposed to a blunder. And he just kept losing and losing. And he was making up these, like, he was telling people like they could pay $100 for lessons. And people are saying like, I took your course and it cured my cancer. I took your course and now my kids will talk to me again. It was just like some hilariousness happening in the chat. So I was watching this for a while, of course, and TikTok noticed. So now anytime they get on TikTok, I'm now in chess talk, basically, where I'm watching all these chess videos. But man, there's something about chess. Cody knew how to play chess her entire life. She tried teaching me a long time ago. She made like this little checklist of like all the moves that people can make. And I just don't know like why I didn't get into it or like be enticed by it, but I just didn't. But then Clark and I learned together, like she taught us, and then we were both like in. And Clark is really good. Like he knows all the moves that each of the different pieces can make. He just needs to work on his strategy a little bit and maybe like kind of see what can attack him better. But man, I'm impressed with him for being as young as he is. I can beat him pretty handily. I don't know if I could beat like a person my age, but it's something that I kind of want to get into. And I was thinking about, I've had a couple wild ideas for like streaming things this week that I want to share with you here. And you can tell me whether you think it's a good idea or not. But I was thinking about streaming me playing chess online. You can go to chess.com and make an account, and then you could play against other people. I could play against viewers, fans that watch. I just thought, oh, that'd be kind of fun to do. You know, I like doing gaming streams, and like that's kind of like that. That's the thing, though. I don't know where I would put that. I don't know if it would be a Greg's World thing, or if it'd be Greg's Arcade, or would it be here? I don't know. I don't know where that would go, but I'm kind of interested because then I feel like I could play chess, learn chess, and then share that with the world at the same time and maybe play against people that are watching. I think it'd be really fun. I also had like this idea, like a similar nature to that. I've been getting into crossword puzzles lately with the New York Times. Unfortunately, my trial ended. I had it for like a week, and then you have to subscribe to do more crosswords. But I enjoy doing those. I enjoy playing Wordle. That'd be a fun thing to do together. And then I also was thinking like, oh, it'd be fun to learn Procreate and like some of the artistry and the moves on that as well. And to motivate me to do these things, it's one thing doing it by myself, but I feel like if I broadcast it, and it might sound crazy to some people, but I feel like that's a motivator for me. Like if I can do something where I'm not only doing it for myself, but also entertaining other people, I get a lot more enjoyment out of that. Like I really enjoy putting myself out there, and you never know who's watching or like what that could do for them. So I was thinking about maybe doing some streams of those things. I don't know how that would work or what it would be, but it's like on my heart, and maybe we'll do that. I guess my biggest concern is if I put it on Greg's World, I just don't think that there's much of an audience there for that. I don't think that they're there to see chess matches. Maybe I make a chess channel. Last thing I need is another channel. I got rid of my live channel. This was my live streaming channel before, so maybe it could go here. Greg does audio podcasts and then plays chess. We'd definitely be dumping subscribers after that. It's still a struggle here. I don't know how much we've gone up. I could probably check. I don't know how much we've gone up since I started podcasting here, but for like every person that comes over, I lose one of the old like Lego people that were here before. When did we start podcasting? Like August something. Let me just see like how up or down we are. Because you figure there was like thousands of people that were subscribed to this for Lego content. And then all of a sudden I start making podcasts like a year after the channel was pretty much dead. And they're like, whoa, get this off my feed. So I lose a lot of people, but then I gain some people that come over from Greg's World or Brickatech. So we're up 259 subscribers since I started podcasting. That's not a lot. That's not much. These would do much better on Greg's World probably if I were to put them over there, if we're just shop talking here. But again, I don't think this is the type of content that audience wants. And I'd much rather find a smaller audience that's really like dedicated to this. So thank you for being one of those people. Speaking of thank you for being one of those people, let's get into listener feedback, starting with, oh, this is a great one. This is from Code X 930. says, I think this kind of ties into what we were talking about before. I have these ordered, you'll see. I think a great idea for you and your family to do on either channel would be something called Would You Rather. My son loves to do these as a family. They sell them as books, and some are silly, some are thinkers. Either way, I think it would be great content. Keep up the great work. We love all the channels. I like that idea. Clark already does that, but his Would You Rathers are like really, really sucky ones. His are like, would you rather eat pizza every day or have to mop the floor every day? I'm like, dude, if you're going to do a would you rather, it has to be two equal things. Like, it can be two good things or two bad things. One would be like, would you rather eat pizza every day or eat McDonald's every day? And that's like, ooh, that's a tough one, right? Or it's like, it could be a bad thing. Would you rather shovel poop every day or I don't know. I got nothing. You get the idea though, right? Like, that's how it's supposed to work. And I think that could be kind of fun to do. We should add a would you rather. Maybe we can make that a part of this podcast. You guys ask a would you rather question and I'll answer one each week. If anybody has a would you rather, throw it in a comment, and then I'll do it in listener feedback next time, and we'll just answer one question each time. I think that's really cool. I got a feel-good comment of the week from Lego Jasper, who says, listening to this podcast is great while doing my Excel. This is the funny one. Here's the feel-good one. The feel-good one of the week is from Venture. He says, you're doing great with your fitness, Greg. These No Zero Days videos are really great and help motivate me to keep active and always think of new things to do. Feel-good comment of the week. Now, funny comment of the week from Jasper. He says, listening to this podcast is great while doing my Excel sheet rework of my financials. At least one thing is positive. I like that. He's doing, if you guys didn't catch that, he's doing his like spreadsheet of how his money's going. So his money's going down, which is a negative, but we got some positivity. At least I hope so, happening here on the podcast. Next comment. This is related to Greg's Arcade Gamer Attack from last week. I mentioned about getting into playing Farming Simulator, which by the time you're watching this or listening to this, I should have already done my first stream of it. Or maybe two, most likely one. I think I'm gonna have some time tomorrow to do that. Today I have a little bit of a birdhouse to finish, but tomorrow Cody and Clark are doing a little art thing at a place that they go to like do a mother-son art. I might use that time, since the house will be nice and quiet, play some Farming Simulator 22. Steelers Pens says, yes, play Farming Simulator. Great game. Played the 2017 version nonstop for well over a year, never ending with maps, mods, bigger, better equipment you can buy. I love the idea. I love the idea of actually going out there, not in real life hitting the farm, but like working like from nothing. I started watching a guy's playthrough. He was doing like a hard mode, and he had no money, nothing. Like, his farm's just in complete disrepair. All he had was a pickup truck and a chainsaw, basically. So he started cutting down trees in the game, and then loading them in the back of his truck, hauling them over to this lumber mill place and getting money for each of like the trees he cuts. And then he used that money to get a tractor with a trailer and like a thing on the front, like forks on the front, to pick up logs. And he's still doing that, but he's like working himself up to the point where he can like start planting fields. And to me, like, to you, maybe that just sounds like the most dumb thing. Like, why would I want to play a game that's worse than like actual work? But for me, I love simulation style games like that. And I just think I'd have so much fun making that a series. And I know with 100% certainty that my audience on my gaming channel would love a series like that. Because it is, I mean, Minecraft is sort of like that. You know, you're starting with nothing, you're crafting, you're building, you're trying to work towards better things, you're making things, building things up, you're driving around. I know I have an audience that loves American Truck Simulator, and this is like that, like way more exciting in my opinion. But I won't know until I play it. The 22, which is the newest version, is available on Xbox Game Pass. So you can play it for free. In fact, the next question here says, hey Greg, it's Greg. I like that. Good name. It says, maybe if you're playing Farming Sim 22, you can make a community farm. Can I do that on Xbox? Because I would love that. I'll set like a plot up, and maybe like people can help me farm it. That'd be so neat. We could imagine we're all out there with our tractors and stuff. I don't know if it's like you have your area and no one else can go in your area. Like there'd be a farm next door to me. This might sound like Animal Crossing to some people out there. But I think it'd be cool to like have like a commune essentially where we have all these farms happening. It'd be really, really sweet. Next comment section is about Amazon. Last week I talked about how Amazon Prime might be a ripoff for me. And I was like, why am I paying for this? What value am I getting from this? I watched one show on it, and I use Amazon shipping, like their Prime shipping, but I don't use any other benefits. BuilderBuds, I think I heard of that guy before. He says, I dropped Amazon Prime whenever they raised their rates to $140 a year, and I'm really happy with that decision. I just submit my order whenever I have $35 worth of stuff in my cart, and it still tends to arrive here in the same amount of time that it did whenever I had Prime. See, that's what I was thinking. I don't really need anything like in 2 days. I can wait a week. It's not an emergency. I'm not trying to get like my medication through Amazon Prime or whatever. Like I'm not trying to get like my life-saving anything on there. It's like, hey, I kind of need this thing. Can I wait a week to get an extension cord for my speaker that I have back here? Probably. I could probably wait for that. I'll have to pitch it by the missus. I think there's that money could be better spent elsewhere. I think if I had to cancel anything, I would cancel that. And I would cancel HBO Max, which is going up by $1 to $16. And the only reason I have it is because we're still working our way through House of Dragon. There's not much else on there that I'm like, oh, I need HBO Max for this. So I think I'm like, if I cancel both those things, it's like freaking $30 a month. That's just like free money that I have, you know? That's like making, like 3,000 people watch 19 ad breaks. That's how much money I would save. Back to our initial conversation there. Next one is kind of like the reverse side of this. This is a Prime benefit that I didn't realize existed, which I wish I did. This is from No Margat. Hopefully I'm saying that right. A perk of having Amazon Prime is having unlimited space to upload your pictures to. See, I didn't know that. I've been uploading my family photos on there for extra backup. Well, not all pictures. Got to keep the private ones offline just in case the server gets hacked. Yeah, I worry about Jeff Bezos sitting there in the office scrolling through my pics. But I've been paying I forget what I pay. It's like $1.99 a month. I have 100 gigabytes through Google, and I put all my photos on there as a backup, as just like a thing that if our house ever burns down and my hard drives melt, even though they're in a fireproof box, it's a place where all of our photos would be because they're irreplaceable. Of all the things that I own in my entire life, if I had to save one thing from certain doom, the thing that I would save would be videos and photos. I would take my hard drives. If I could only take one thing out of this house, assuming one thing be a category, because I have multiple hard drives, that's what I would take. Everything else can be replaced. I can get a new computer. I can get a new TV. I can get new clothes. I can't get the photos or videos, although they're on YouTube, so I could download them or watch them. But then again, it's like you're kind of at YouTube's whim there. And what if they ever come up with a thing, which I think they should do? This is going to be controversial. The most controversial thing that I could say today. You think about the amount of money that YouTube is spending to house videos that are either unlisted or are public and have like no views. What I think they should do, and again, this is like controversial to say the least. If you make a public video for the world that after 1 year of sitting there, it doesn't throw any number out there. It doesn't have 25 views on it. They should remove the video. And I know that's like a huge bummer for a lot of people because sometimes people make videos just to share with like their family or whatever. So I mean, I don't know. It's tough because like they're spending all this money to house or to like host these videos that are doing absolutely nothing. They're just existing. So I don't know what the way that you could like eliminate those is. Like you definitely feel bad. Like you record Johnny's birthday and then you're like, oh, I'm going to put that on so grandma can watch it and Uncle Fester can watch it and stuff. And then it gets deleted by YouTube because it got 3 views over the first year. But there has to be some way that they could like slim it down if they need to. Because I'm not even sure if YouTube has ever actually made profit. I think it's just one of those things that Google has, and Google makes so much money that it's okay. And it's definitely a resource because YouTube is a great search engine. But I did see now that a lot of younger folk, that's what you say when you're old, they're using TikTok as a search engine, which is wild. Like TikTok is a search engine. Scary. Let's go on to the next comment, though. Thank you for that recommendation, though. It's free unlimited. Oh, it's not really free, I guess. It's actually probably way more expensive than what Google is if you start breaking down all the dollars. This one is regarding Disney. Might be our last Disney topic we talk about here for quite some time. But Lucas says, on your Disney on a budget topic, this is a pro tip if anyone's thinking about going there. Last time we went to Disney World, we bought gift cards ahead of time at Kroger when they offered 4x fuel points. I figured on our 17-gallon fuel tank, we saved 6.8% on our Disney trip. Not a lot, but every little bit counts. That's a lot. If you could save 6.8% on anything, I think it's worth it. We don't have a Kroger anywhere near us. I think that's like, is that like a Midwest place? I know people like in Ohio talk about Kroger, but we don't have any around these parts. I don't think I've even seen one in Pennsylvania in all of my travels. But saving 6.8% is definitely worth it, and a good recommendation for those with Kroger fuel points. Next one and last one. This is actually like a multi-part question comment from Kimberly. She says, "Hey Greg, my family have been watching your videos for the last 3 years. Our son is now 4, and he loves to watch Clarky," which I love that. That's awesome. She says, "We're in the UK and we really enjoyed your vlogs from your visit in the UK." You know, one of my big worries about those was, how are people from the UK going to view our trip? Did we do the UK well? Did we miss all the fun stuff, all the great stuff? Cody did a great job planning the trip, and we had so much fun. That was probably my favorite trip that we've ever been on. Like, the weather was fantastic. Everything worked. I was so stressed on that trip with the moving of things. You know, we were going from Scotland to York to London. So like all these different moves on trains with all this luggage that we packed, because it was like a 2-week trip. So we had 2 big like checked bags essentially, and then like 3 carry-on bags. And I was so worried about all those things kind of working out and getting those things on the train and managing that. But like everything worked out perfectly. We had a fantastic time. It was an amazing trip that I don't know if we could ever do better than that. I loved it. I love the UK. I love London especially. Edinburgh was amazing. It was incredible. It was such for me, it felt like a once in a lifetime trip. But I'm glad that you enjoyed it and hope we did the place justice. She says, "Do you find it strange or interesting that people that aren't in America watch your videos and listen to your podcast?" I really don't. Like, I hear from people all the time from different parts of the world, especially live streaming. It's really cool when you hit a live stream and people are like, "Hello from Ireland, hello from Australia, hello from Greece." Like, it could be anywhere. And it's just so interesting. Like, I do find it interesting that people from all over the world watch and find interest in our videos, because I just feel like I'm just an average dude from Pennsylvania. But to some people, that's very different from the life they live. Like when I go out and show my chickens, or like we go playing around the creek with our RC boat, if you lived in a really big city, that is like really kind of fascinating, right? Like I wish maybe like I don't necessarily wish I had that life, but that's interesting to see. In the same way for me, like I watch this guy that goes live doing like bike deliveries, like through like various food places in Manhattan. And I find that fascinating. Like to some people, I'd be like, "Oh God, like that seems like a miserable existence." But to me, I'm like, wow, this is so cool seeing someone go through a city and like all the things you can see and the people you meet. Like that's awesome. So like, I think there's a market for everything and everybody out there. And to know that there's people throughout the world that want to watch us of all people is pretty darn cool. That's how I feel. Her next comment says she's a 33-year-old woman, and I'm sure I'm not your usual demographic, so I was wondering if you know how diverse your listenership is. It's actually very diverse. According to the demographics here on YouTube, it's very much male-dominated here. It's like 90-some% male watching this or listening to this. But the age range is what I find interesting. It's hard for me to know who my audience is because the ages are all over the board, like from very young to very old. And what I notice on Greg's World in particular is there's a lot of women watching. Like obviously that's how you found us. And that's because women are logging into their accounts for their kids, and then their kids are watching. But the fun thing that happens with this, and I've seen it a lot, is that while the kid's enjoying the content, the parent starts enjoying it as well, because our kids' content, if you want to call it that, is nothing like the other kids' content that your kid probably watches if you have one. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not throwing any names out there. We're going to discuss how manipulative, if that's a word, some of these channels are and just how cringy they are. But it's weird to see a channel that kids are interested in where it's like just the family doing stuff together, and it's not trying to sell you anything, not trying to be over the top, not trying to be fake. Like, that's refreshing. I've only really seen Clark get into one channel that felt like that to me, and they were called the Izzy's, or Izzy's Toy Time. He was into that because they did a lot of Thomas stuff. And it was just like a cool family that are just fun, and there was never like any pressure from them to like do something. He's watched other channels where it just feels so, like, it just feels wrong. And the fact that these aren't even technically made for kids channels in some regards, it feels terrible. So as a result of that, I have this fan base that's very young. They come for the Clark Man content. And then I've got people my age that are watching it with their kids that also watch and are interested in what I'm doing. We've got people that are older because they can actually tolerate this type of content on YouTube versus like some of the other like way over the top stuff. So our demographic is very diverse. And I'm actually surprised on this channel in particular. I think it's because it's been a Lego channel for so long that's why it's mostly male. But I think it's a pretty good split between male and female. And it's just kind of cool. And it's nice to hear from people of all ages. That's why it's really hard for me to determine what type of content to make, because I don't really know who I'm making it for. So oftentimes what I do is I just make what I want to make. And if that means that I'm going to lose subscribers from that, that's so be it. You know, I refuse to be like, okay, my audience loves monster truck videos. That's the thing that they found us for. We got to do nothing but make monster truck videos, and to have that be forced in a time when maybe we're not really into that anymore. I don't want that to be a part of my life. I think I would get so tired of doing this. YouTube would feel like a job, which it's never felt like that for me. And I would just end up not wanting to do this anymore. And that's what happens to a lot of people on YouTube. They blow up over something that something happened. Like they make a variety of videos and this one thing blows up. Like they start playing Animal Crossing. I'm just throwing that out there. And that blows up and they're like, oh God, I got to make more Animal Crossing videos. And then all these people keep finding them through Animal Crossing. And then a year later, they realize like, they don't even like Animal Crossing. Why are they doing this? And they quit and their channel disappears. I never want to be that. So I make the content that I want to make. If it happens to be me live streaming chess videos, so be it. You know what's going to happen? There will be people that leave that came for the monster trucks, but then there's a new person that comes for the chess stuff. And as chapters of your life go by, you're going to have to replace the people that are watching your channel. You know, there's some people that'll stick around forever, but people that subscribed to our channel 10 years ago when we're bringing Roxy home and Love Chocolate Labs, they probably aren't necessarily interested in our lives anymore, even though Roxy's still a part of it. Like that was so long ago. So you always have to kind of like, your audience is always recycling. So you never have to feel really concerned about reinventing yourself if you want to. Not that I'd be really reinventing. It's just like adding new things on. I don't worry too much about that. What I've learned throughout history is that I make what I feel called to make, and there's always been an audience there that's interested in seeing that. And I just have to have faith that that's always going to be the thing if I want to continue doing this for a living. Maybe not. Maybe someday that audience will shrink and I'll have to figure out something else. But for now, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done, which is doing what I'm passionate about and sharing that passion with the world. That's about all you can do. She finishes that up with saying, I just wanted to drop you a message and say, keep it up. Loving all your content and your honesty. That's an honor. Thank you so much for the comment and the conversation that we could have around that. I appreciate that. I'm glad you found our channel through your son, and I'm glad that maybe you're finding something here that you enjoy watching as well. That's pretty cool. And again, that's not easy to do on YouTube, where you can attract a demographic that it consists of like the entire population. Usually it's very, very precise. But if you did find us somehow through some video, through some means, and you're still here and somehow you found your way over to this podcast and have just spent the last 50 minutes sitting here listening to me talk about my week and my life and the things I'm interested in and my dreams and thoughts, I appreciate the heck out of you. If there's anything that you'd like me to discuss in next week's episode, you can throw it out there. If you have a would you rather comment, we'll make that a new part of the show too. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I hope you guys all have a glorious week this week. If the fitness talk got you pumped up, go out and do it. Make it happen. Report back on your results. I'd love to hear how you're doing. I hope you have the most fantastic of times, and we'll see you guys all in the next Missing Pieces or Greg's World podcast, whatever this is called. My audio journal. We'll see you in the next one.